else joins in, or obviously this will be recorded, so you can come back and watch it. Other people might be watching it later. So we'll get started. This is Foundations Business 101. My name is Melissa Machat, and if I have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, I am an agent here at Keller Williams Las Vegas. I run the Machat Group. Last year we were ranked number 79 out of all Las Vegas agents, which was very exciting for us. And I'm also the productivity coach for our office, which means I run a coaching program to help agents get into production. And not only that, I am also very much obsessed with personal development and mindset. It's all connected. And I am certified practitioner in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And just want to make sure this is recording real quick. I see it's live on Facebook, but I don't know if it's actually recording also. So let me know if you want me to hit that button or if you got that too. Just going to give it a second and make sure we are all good. Okay. Hopefully that's all right. I'm also recording it to the cloud as well. So anyway, basically with Foundations Business 101, this is very much, where are you going from here? And first of all, with the year we've had so far, things going on right now in the world, it's time to kind of reset, recast the vision, and what do you really want to accomplish the rest of 2020? And I know that may sound like we don't even know what's going to happen anymore at this rate. Who knows what's happening next week, let alone tomorrow, let alone 3 months from now or 6 months from now. So I think that now more than ever, it is time to reset and really get clear on what it is you want to accomplish this year. That does not mean people are not going through things right now, that you are not dealing with circumstances, outside circumstances. The world is in turmoil, the pandemic, being quarantined, now protests and everything going on. So I feel like for a lot of people, we almost wanted to treat June 1st as like a New Year's Day, the start of a new beginning, because unfortunately and fortunately, the world is not going back to the way that it was. And you might be waiting. You might say, well, when everything opens up and when everything's back to normal, then I'll just go back to normal and I'll keep doing my door knocking and I'll keep doing my open houses. And I'm just waiting for things to go back to normal. And I think at this point, it's not a question of going back to normal. I don't think that's realistic. I think it's more of, what do you want your new normal to look like? So the first question for today is, what does your new normal look like? And that includes goals, that includes your business plan, that includes your schedule, that might include the sources of business that you're doing. There's so many different things that make up this new normal and this new life we're heading into. And it's really time to do the work and get very clear about what you want that to look like. So I will say I love interaction, I love feedback, I love being able to hear what's going through your head. And so if you want to use the chat box, if you want to type comments, please do so. Otherwise I will be, talking to myself here. And at the same time, I want you to really take this in for a moment, that you have an opportunity right now to recreate the life that you want. And it's not very often, and we may never get it again, where things actually slow down enough to a place where we've had time to maybe reflect. We've had time to think what's really been working, what hasn't been working. And that doesn't mean you haven't been going through emotions and maybe you haven't felt like doing anything lately because the weight of everything is too much. And I understand it's a lot. There's a lot going on, and life is going to continue happening. So when you have a really clear, solid business plan and goals, and you're clear what you're going after, the how and what you have to do might change to get you there, but the end goal, the end game, that usually doesn't change, or if you're going to change it this year, now's the time to do it so you get clear moving forward. So that's the first question, is really start digging deep. What do you want this new normal to look like? What do you want your new future to look like? And we're going to dig in right now. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment, and we're going to start going through some questions to help you figure out, you know, maybe some questions you're having right now, or how do I even decide? How do I even know what I want to achieve when we don't know what the future holds, we don't know what's coming. And so we're going to go through some exercises to help you really deep dive and figure this out. So I'm going to share my screen, just bear with me for one moment. And any questions, like I said, please put them in the chat box. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I'm not seeing the Facebook questions, but I will make sure to reach out and answer them after. All right, can everybody see my screen? Everyone's good? So we call this Business 101. Learn how to set your goals and manage your time. It all starts there. So business planning and goal setting. We say it's not magic, it's math. We have figured out exactly what it's going to take and what you have to do to achieve your goals, depending on the goals you set. And it really is a numbers game. So if you're new to real estate, if you've been in the business a while, something to keep in mind is it's all about the numbers. And you just have to figure out what the math is so you can determine what goals you want to set. So first things first, and this is very much in a do the work class. If you just listen and you don't really take the time, you're multitasking right now, you're not really paying attention, now's the time to stop what you're doing, get a piece of paper, and really think this through. Because we can tell you all day long what you could be doing or should be doing, but you have to figure out what you want to do and what makes sense for you in the business you're building. So here's some questions to kind of help you deep dive. What do you want to accomplish? What will disappoint you if it doesn't happen? How much, now it says how much all these things cost. There's a lot of stuff on here. I am going to actually stop sharing my screen so I can walk you through this exercise without the distraction of what are all these other things she's talking about. So the first thing I want you to figure out and write down on a piece of paper is it's December 31st, 2020. What do you want to accomplish between now and December 31st? Another way to put that is put yourself out in the future. And you might say, Melissa, do you know what's happening? We don't even know what's around the corner. We don't know what's coming. I don't know what's happening with the state of everything going on. I hear you. And at the same time, if you had your ideal situation and you were sitting here December 31st and I said, you know, hey, Melissa, how was the rest of the your year? How did it go? And I was like, you know, it ended up being great. What would have to happen in order for you to say it ended up being great? What would you be disappointed if it didn't happen? Because something happens with goal setting, especially if you're newer to real estate. Maybe you've been in the business a long time and you suffer from this too. We tend to make up numbers because they sound good and it's what we should be doing. So if I said, how much money do you want to make? Most agents make up the number $100,000. I've always wanted to make six figures. Okay, you could say, how many closings do you want to have happen? And a lot of agents will start making up numbers. Well, I want to do 24, I want to do 50, I want to do 100. But we don't actually take any time to really figure out what those numbers even mean in the first place. So I think when you're doing this little exercise and you're visualizing the future, it's really getting clear on things that actually matter to you. So it can be all areas of your life, by the way. Is it health? Is it fitness? Is it the way you eat? Is it how much time you're spending or not spending with your family and loved ones? Maybe you had some perspective shifts over the past couple months and you realize now more than ever that certain relationships mean something to you and you've enjoyed being home and having the extra time. Maybe others haven't. I don't know. So when you're going through this process, you really want to make sure, what is it that I want to accomplish in life? Not just how many deals do I want to do? We'll figure out and work backwards. So can everybody take a moment and write out, what would you be disappointed if it didn't happen this year? And some examples: is it paying off debt? How much debt? Is it paying off, a credit card debt? Is it having a certain amount in savings? Maybe the past couple months made you realize, I don't have reserves and my priority right now is I want to have money in savings. So if I have to go 3 or 6 months without a check, I'm okay. Could it be a vacation? Could it be time off? Could it be something you want to do to your home? Could it be buying a home? So really start to write down things that actually mean something to you, not just numbers for the sake of numbers. Is it an investment property? Maybe it is, I've wanted to go take classes or hire a personal trainer or really get in shape. Could it be a meal prep program? So I want everybody to literally take a minute and write down all the things you would be disappointed if it didn't happen this year. It can be material, it can be personal, it can be anything that's important to you. And put a number next to it. So if it is a vacation, how much? If it is money in savings, how much do you want to be in savings? If it is buying a house, how much do you need for that? So I'm going to just give you a moment and let everybody take a minute to write this down. And I'm going to share my screen while you're finishing that up. And here's the thing, if you still have more, come back and do the work. Pause it and do the work. Don't rush through it, because if you aren't clear about what you want, there's no way you're going to make it happen. So does everybody have an answer for what do you want to accomplish? What will disappoint you if it doesn't happen? And do you have how much do all these things cost? Does everybody have kind of a good idea? Little head nod. Any questions on this? You can come off mute or put it in the chat box. And if not, I'll just keep going. So if you've added everything up and you know now that it's going to take $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, there's no right or wrong. It's whatever that answer was for you. That's how much it's going to cost you to actually achieve the things that are important to you this year. Well, now we got to keep adding to that number. So let's just say that number was $50,000. Okay. You need to put in to this $50,000 your actual living expenses. How about if you are in a company that has a cap or a split, you want to make sure you put in that in there. So if we have a cap, you want to add that to your $50,000. You want to add your living expenses. So if it costs you $5,000 a month to live, pay your bills, eat, all of that, pay for your car, things like that, and there are, 6 months left in the year, then you want to add that. Here we go, trying to do math. What is $30,000, right? You want to add your $30,000 to your 50 because you need that to live. So you really have to take the time to do the math. I know we're not in a classroom together where I can get on a board and write this, but I hope you really are taking a moment to do the work. So the next piece of this is taxes. How about actually having money put aside for taxes instead of it being a shock and surprise you owe money and you're like, well, I don't know where it went, I don't have it. Because who's been in that boat? I've been in that boat. It's not fun. So however much you want to put aside for taxes, your business expenses, how much on average are you spending every month in your business? You have to add all those numbers up because that's actually your GCI goal. So what I mean by that is gross commission income. There are a lot of different numbers in the real estate business, and there's a lot of different numbers people go off for reporting. But what we just did is figured out what your actual gross needs to be. So when you take out your split, you take out your taxes, you take out your business expenses, your living expenses, you have that original 50 grand left over to spend on those extra things that mean something to you this year. So gross commission can be a number that might be freaking you out. You might say, that scares me. That's too big, or I've never done that before. How in the world am I going to get there? I added some stuff up for my team and the numbers ended up being like 700,000 to 800,000 in gross commission. I was like, oh, that's a lot bigger business than what I was thinking or what it would take to actually achieve all of our goals. So gross commission, that should be the number you highlight, you circle. It could be 100, it could be 150,000, it might be 200,000. So does everybody have a number right now that they've come up with that is their gross commission? And anybody have any questions of, okay, you walk through that math way too quick. How do I get there? What do I need to do? Anyone need any assistance with this, or is it making sense?
It makes sense.
Thank you. And you have your number circled, you have it, you figured it out, or do you need some more time?
No, I have my number.
Okay. Now, the next piece of this, ignore the money management. We're going to get there in a second. But if you have your GCI goal, you have that number. Now we're going to break it down and figure out how many transactions that actually will take. So depending on your average sales price, if you want to be conservative, they say the Las Vegas average right now is in the low 300,000, whether it's a 2.5% to 3% commission. You could use a $9,000 average commission check. If most of your deals have been in the lower 200s, you might want to use a $6,000 or $7,000 average commission check. If you've never sold a home before, I would probably use $7,500 as an average commission check. Some of you might sell in higher price points and your average commission check might be $10,000. If you're watching this and you're in a completely different city, it might be $15,000, $20,000. So take your average commission check. Again, if you want to be very conservative, you can use a $7,500 to $8,000 average commission check. That's pretty conservative. And you want to divide that with your GCI goal. So take your GCI goal. So if it's $100,000, divide that by 7,500, 8,000, whatever average you want to use. So if everybody takes their calculator right now, so everyone do some math. Okay, so if it's $100,000 that's your goal, and you divide that by 7,500, you come out with 13.333. Now, that's obviously not a whole number, so you're going to want to round up. So if $100,000 was your goal and your average commission check is $7,500, your number of transactions you would need to close is 14. If you had a $200,000 goal and you say your average commission check is $8,000, divided by 8,000, that's 25 closings. That's 25 deals you would have to do to reach that gross commission. So usually when I do this in a classroom, people start having a little bit of a panic attack because the numbers seem too big. The numbers are way bigger than they ever expected. It might be 50, it might be 40, it might be 36. Now, if you were doing this between now and the end of the year, the number might be smaller, right? It might be $50,000 divided by 7,500. That's 7 closings. So if you don't like the number and you're kind of freaking out right now, you have a couple choices. You can increase your average sales price. which means focus on maybe $400,000 to $500,000 homes instead of $200,000 to $300,000 homes. So depending on that number, keep playing around with it until you get to something that makes sense for you. If you've never closed a deal before and you realize you have to do 50 deals before the end of the year, is that really realistic? So you either have to focus on way higher price points, or you need to change your goal and make it something realistic, or you need to be willing to do the work that it takes to get there. So here's what I mean by that with some context. And I'm going to stop sharing again just for a moment. If you look at your number and it's like, I have never closed a deal and I'm going to have to close 36 between now and the end of the year, I don't even know how I would even do that. So you have a couple choices. How badly do you want it? What are you willing to do to make that happen? If you had to be on the phones or looking for business 4 or 5 hours a day to hit that goal, is that realistic for you? If you're like, well, no, I'm part-time and I have other obligations and I only have like an hour or two to spend on real estate every day, you might want to reevaluate and see if that goal even makes sense for you. If you say, I, no matter what, have to make this happen, I don't have any other distractions, commitments, obligations, I am full-time, all in, I don't care what it takes, let's do it, then do you think you have a better chance of making it happen than someone who's like, well, I only have a couple hours a day and I don't really, that's not really the work I'm looking to do right now. I've talked to people who got into the real estate business kind of in retirement, or they're retiring soon, and they don't have to do this. They don't have to work. So do you think they're going to have the same goals and same schedule as someone who might be the breadwinner of the family and everyone's depending on them to put food on the table? Like, there's going to be a different intensity. There's going to be a different amount of work you need to put into it. So that's where I am saying you have to get really clear about what your goals are in the first place. Because if they don't match up to the work you're willing to do or what it really will take you to get there, you have to evaluate and say, okay, do I need to change the goal? Do I need to figure out how to really get a higher price point? Am I willing to do what it takes? So is everybody clear on the number they have to do? And is anyone completely freaking out about that number still? Or is and I'm not, look, you have to get uncomfortable and get outside your comfort zone to grow. So I'm not saying, oh, you don't like it, it's uncomfortable, well, just pick something smaller. Like, I'm not saying that, I hope you're not hearing that. But it is about figuring out, like, what is realistic? It might stretch you. Someone said, thank you for breaking that down. It makes so much sense. Perfect. And if you have more questions, please ask, right? You're only going to get out of this what you put into it. So now's the time to ask questions, and let's do the math together, and let's really, really figure it out. Because when you have, they say clarity is power. And when you have clarity and you know what you actually are aiming for, you can go make it happen. The reason most people don't hit their goals is because they were just making things up in the first place that didn't really have any meaning to them. And so you're just kind of going through the motions, like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be making 20 contacts a day, and I'm supposed to be calling, and I'm supposed to be door knocking, but now I can't door knock, so now I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, you just kind of wander around lost instead of like purposeful on a mission. So like, when I'm clear on my goals, I have an intensity about me because I know what I'm going after. So any questions coming up? Is this making sense? Is everybody clear on what, we'll get into what to do to hit your number, but is everybody clear on at least the number? And if anyone wants to share it in the, how many deals you'd have to do between now and the end of the year, if you want to share it in the chat box, now is the perfect time to do that. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about on this slide is money management. So we just talked about gross commission. Gross commission is not what you walk away with in your pocket. And this is where a lot of real estate agents get themselves in trouble, is that they think a $10,000 check is now $10,000 in their bank account net to them, and they act like they just made $10,000, when in reality, they did not. And that is why tax season comes around and you find out you owe 10, 15, 20, 30, however much $1,000 in taxes. And you're like, I don't have that. Like, I'm sure we've all been there or know someone who's been there. It's like, it comes around and you're like, what do you mean I still owe 20 grand or I still owe, like, I don't have that money. What do I do? It's not a good feeling. You don't want to be there. If you haven't been there, don't go there. But the reason is because we're spending based off what we made in our gross. We're not actually allocating all that money to all the places it needs to go. So I learned something that changed my life financially. Anyone I've shared this with who actually implement it, it completely changes their financial situation as well. It starts with having 4 bank accounts. Now, you can split this up how you want, percentages, you got to do what makes sense for you. I'm just going to give you a general idea so you have somewhere to start. You want to have a savings account, and savings meaning like reserves, like we get quarantined again and you can't work or something happens and you don't have income for 3 to 6 months and you have that cushion built in. The next one is a business account. Like, this is your operating for your business. So any business expenses, this is technically where your commission should be deposited into, is your business account. And then you can disperse from there. Taxes, depending on your situation, I'm not a CPA. Please talk to someone who's an actual tax professional. For me, I usually put, depending on what's going on, 20 to 25% in away for taxes. And I'll get into the percentages on the other ones real quick. And then the other one is like a personal account. This is like my personal living expenses, personal operating, things that are not business, not taxes, not savings. By having 4 accounts, when you get that $10,000 check, what they say is I'm going to just throw out numbers. Again, play around with the math and figure out what makes sense for you. Let's just say 30% goes to your business. 30% goes to savings. That would put us at 60. So then 20% for taxes, 20% for personal. You could do 25% for taxes, 25% for personal. Like, you can split this up in what makes sense to you. But let's just say it's 30, 30, 20, 20. When you get a $10,000 check and you get all excited that you got 10 grand, and if you haven't had that experience, the beauty of real estate, we can get very large checks and it's very exciting. And we tend to spend it because, we have it. We want to celebrate. We want to go get all those things we have on our list. Here's the game changer. When you have these 4 accounts and you split it up, that $10,000 is now $3,000 in your business, $3,000 in savings, $2,000 for taxes, and $2,000 you paid yourself in your personal account. That ain't 10 grand. That's not $10,000 to go spend and have fun with. That's $2,000 in your personal to pay your living expenses, mortgage, things like that. That's $3,000 in your business. So when it comes to business expenses and things you're paying every month, do you see the difference? That's a big difference than like, I have 10 grand or I have 50 grand in my account. I have all this money. This is amazing. Yeah, no wonder we spend it, because we celebrate and think we have all this money that's not really ours. So, fun fact, if you're following along and this is making sense to you, because I'm putting 20 or 25% away for taxes, that's before my expenses come out with my CPA. So I'm essentially bringing in $10,000. I put through $2,000 or $2,500 or $3,000 away for taxes. That actually ends up becoming more in my tax account than I actually need at tax time, because taxes are based off your taxable income after expenses. I put it in there before I took expenses out. I hope you're following me on this, because taxes ended up becoming, for the first time in my life, an account where I had extra. So then it became a bonus vacation fund. It became a bonus household, household wish list fund, because not only do I have enough put away for taxes, I actually have extra in there is like secondary emergency reserves or fun or whatever it may be. So that's like a secret cool trick that I never in my life thought not only would I have the responsibility of putting money away for taxes, but now I have more in there than I ever need at tax time, because it's based off my gross, what's coming to me off the 10,000, not the actual 3,000 that's really going to expenses. Any questions? Anyone completely like, what, 4 accounts? This is too much. By the way, they can be in the same bank. If you have social discipline to not touch it, some people spread them out with different banks because they don't want to have to get tempted. So yeah, this is huge. And I'm telling you, for the first time, this is when I was able to actually build up reserves very quickly, because I saw what was actually there. I saw how little was in there. It freaked me out and I didn't like it. So I'm pretty sure my first goal was, how do I get 3 months reserves? How much would I need to get 6 months reserves? How much would I need to get a year reserves? Do you think life is a little bit less stressful knowing you have a year of reserves? So if life happens, a pandemic happens, your business gets shut down, now I'm not saying that'll last forever, it'll go away real quick in an emergency, but can you see the difference of quality of life and less stress? And what are we doing all this for in the first place? It completely breaks my heart that people are so living paycheck to paycheck, and you miss one paycheck and you are completely in trouble. And I've been there. I had a nervous breakdown over a $20 parking ticket because I did not have $20. Like, I've absolutely been there where it was counting pennies to make sure I could pay my bills and get by. It's not fun. And then to get into real estate and start making money and then you don't know where the money goes, that's not fun either. So this will be a game changer for you, and I hope it helped and made sense. And any questions before we move on? So quick recap, you should know your GCI goal. You should now have your number of transactions it will take to hit that number. You have a list of things that mean something to you that you want to be accomplishing this year, and you'd be disappointed if it didn't happen. You now understand what GCI is, and it's not money that comes to you that you can spend. And now you have 4 accounts that you're splitting your money between, so you actually see what you have and are saving, reserves, have money in your business, etc. That's a lot for 35 minutes. So anyone have any questions or need any want to go over anything? Okay, we'll keep, let me check real fast. We're good, perfect. I like it, move quick. All right, so we kind of already did this. How many transactions? You guys are so ahead of schedule. Take your GCI, divide by average commission equals number of closings. All right, this is a tool. If you are in the Keller Williams ecosystem, we tend to have a lot of tools and systems and our own language. If you are not Keller Williams, this is still something that can absolutely help you. We call it a 135 or a GPS. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. The question here you really want to dig deep on is, where do you want your deals to come from? So what I mean by that is, if your number is 10 or 5 or 20 or 25, where do you get inspired, excited, get energy for where those deals are going to come from? Meaning, my sphere, social media. Let's pretend we're allowed to do open houses. I've always dreamt of doing open houses and I want all my deals to come from open houses. Could it be expireds or for sale by owners? Could it be from a farm, an area that you It could be your neighborhood. It could be a neighborhood you've always wanted to be in. So really take a moment and think, where do you want this business to come from? A mistake a lot of agents make is they get caught up in what they're supposed to be doing. And they got caught up in what they should be doing. And I heard I'm supposed to door knock. I'm supposed to be doing open houses. I'm supposed to be cold calling. I'm supposed to be, you can all think of 1,000 things you've heard at some point, right? Like, well, I am supposed to be calling for sell by owners, and I'm supposed to be calling just listed circle prospecting, and I'm supposed to be cold calling, but I don't really feel comfortable and don't really like being on the phone. So maybe that's not for me. Like, we don't want to get caught up in the should, could, supposed to. You got to figure out what actually means something to you and do something that energizes, inspires, and excites you. And there's 2 types of people out there. Well, there's a lot of types, but for this example, there's people you know, and there's people you don't know. Not everybody wants to work with the people they know, and not everybody wants to work with people they don't know. So you got to figure out, like, for me, I know it sounds weird, but I'd rather be in the when I was really lead generating, I chose to be in the people I don't know category. Expireds became my favorite because they already raised their hand that they wanted to sell their home and they were willing to pay a commission. To me, that was like, well, that's easy. Why not focus on them? Now it takes skill, it takes practice, it took a different schedule to make that happen. Versus someone who wants to work with their sphere, friends, family, maybe they grew up here, maybe they know a lot of people here. That's going to be a different schedule and a different kind of routine to get business from it. So you have to decide, where do you want that to come from? So can everybody think of 2 or 3 what we like to call sources of business? Sphere, your sphere is people you know, people who know you, they like you. It could be, people in your neighborhood. So is everyone clear? Because right now, the biggest thing I found with this pandemic that shook a lot of people off their game and really threw people off is a lot of agents had door knocking and open houses as part of their sources of business. And when all of a sudden they couldn't do that anymore, or they're not allowed to do it yet, they had no idea what to do instead. So is everyone pretty clear? Because now could be the time to reinvent and get creative. There's a lot of people who are, you know what, everyone's online. So I'm going to shift and go online and do video, YouTube, social media, Facebook ads, internet ads, leads. A lot of people have shifted and gone there because they can't do the things that used to work for them. So is everyone clear? 2 or 3? You got that? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to see if I'm able to upload a file. I think I can. Give me 1 second. I'm going to upload a couple files for you all. If it will let me. Let's see. May or may not work. We will find out very soon. Where would downloads be? Interesting. Okay, this may be taking me a little bit longer. I will look for it after. Yeah, we're gonna play with this later. Okay, I'm gonna share it on my screen. And then after this call, if you guys put your email in the chat box, I will email this to you if I cannot figure out how to upload the file. So we're gonna go to something called a GPS or 135. See if it'll let me. All right, stand by. You're all there? We made it? Okay, good. You never know. Okay, so a GPS is basically, the G stands for goal. So the 135, a GPS, the G stands for goal, or your one goal. The P is for priority. So again, so 1, 3, 5, so the P is 3. 3 priorities, or what we just did, sources of business. So for example, I'm going to walk you through this. If you're looking at all the tabs open on my PDF thing, it's way too many. Anyway, so basically a GPS 135 is, let's say your goal was 10 closings or $100,000. You can pick closings, you could pick the income, it's up to you. So your first, my one thing for the year, right? This top line, my one thing for the year, and you can just write this down on a piece of paper. You don't even need this template. My one thing for the year is to earn $100,000 by December 31st, 2020, or to close 15 transactions by December 31st, 2020. What is your one thing? Not, I'm going to do 50 things and I have all these things. No, what is the one thing, your one goal for the rest of this year? Now, see where it says priority number 1, priority number 2, priority number 3. Those are your 3 sources of business. So priority number 1 to achieve my one thing for the year is my sphere of influence. Priority number 2 to achieve my one thing for the year is social media. And priority number 3 to achieve my one thing for the year is my neighborhood farm. So do you all understand? You can add whatever your 3 sources of business go into priority number 1, number 2, and number 3. And again, you don't need this template. You can just write this down. Now, the GPS, the strategy, or a 135, that's the 5. What are 5 strategies to achieve priority number 1? Meaning, if priority number 1 is my sphere of influence, what are 5 strategies I could do to get business from my sphere? So, number 1 could be call them quarterly. Number 2 could be send a monthly newsletter. Number 3 could be a client appreciation event twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, whatever you want it to be. Number 4 might be a handwritten card or birthday card or something of value. And number 5 could be what we like to call, a 33 touch, but that has a lot of like the calling, handwritten note. Maybe number 5 is dropping something off. Maybe it's pumpkin pies at Thanksgiving. Maybe it is giving something to them, a gift. So you now have 5 strategies to get business from your sphere. So is this making sense? So does anybody want to share what their source of business is, and we can work on your 5 strategies together? And if not, I'll just keep making stuff up and you guys can get ideas from that too. So let's say number 2 is social media. So what's a strategy number 1 to get business from social media? Maybe post 3 times a week. Maybe post 5 days a week. Strategy number 2 could be do a Facebook Live or a video walkthrough of a home once a week. You want to put a time on it too, right? You don't want to just say call them. You want to say call them every quarter, or post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or mail on Thanksgiving, or a pie party for Thanksgiving. So make sure you put times on this. You're not just saying something super vague that doesn't really amount to anything. And then number 3, you're going to do that for your farm. So number 1 is I'm going to call everybody in my neighborhood once a month, or maybe once a quarter. Strategy number 2 could be I'm going to mail a postcard once a month, once a quarter, every other month, whatever you want it to be. Number 3 could be I'm going to create a neighborhood Facebook group and invite all the neighbors into the Facebook group. And then I'm going to post and manage it accordingly. Number 4 could be when open houses come back or virtual open houses. I'm going to do an open house once a month, once a week, whatever, in my neighborhood. Number 5 could be I'm going to do a neighborhood community event, block party once a quarter. So do you all see that this just gave you 15 action items that you actually need to do? Like, does everybody get that? You just pretty much created your action items to help you achieve your one thing. That's why this tool is so powerful. It's just clarity. Any questions? Does this make sense? Okay, good. So now that you have your GPS, that actually becomes your action items every day. It's telling you what you need to do to achieve your goals. Now I'm gonna go back to our slides real quick. So the 135, your GPS, we just broke it down. That's all it was, to bite-sized manageable pieces. So we already said, where do you want your deals to come from? And if you guys did the work or you're doing the work, you will now have the action items that it's going to take to make that happen. Do you see how like simple this can be? And we love to overcomplicate it. So now we come into time blocking and your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So all those 15 things we just came up with, or you just came up with, where do they fit on your calendar? This is where, if you have not read the book, The One Thing, I highly recommend you read it. It simplifies attaining our goals. It simplifies, if you figure out the one thing that is the most important, that will make everything else easier or unnecessary. For a real estate agent, I can give you a clue. It's lead generation. It's finding business. And the 80-20 rule means that you could spend 20% of your time focused on the right thing to get 80% of your result. So you don't have to spend 8 hours a day doing those action items. It might take you 2 hours a day. It might take you an hour a day. It might take you 3 hours a day, depending on your goals and what you have to do. If you have to talk to 50 people a day to hit your goal, yeah, you might be spending 4 or 5 hours. If it's 20 people, that might be 2.5, 3 hours, depending what you're doing. So this is where those action items, take the time to put them on your calendar. So if you have to call your sphere quarterly, they've done the math, they've figured it out. If you call 2 letters a week, how many people are in your, I mean, I know it's hard to like say this, you know, while we're not in a room and I have a board and we can go through the numbers together. But seriously, we can figure out and break it down how many people you actually need to reach out to every day to hit your goal. So that's why we said it's not magic, it's math. If you don't have the amount of business you want, you aren't where you want to be on that goal that you have, that you set, you don't have the amount of business, it's because you either aren't taking action at all, you're not taking purposeful, the right action, or you aren't clear about what you're going after in the first place, and you're just kind of showing up and attending classes and you're busy, but you're not really doing anything that matters. So these tools are incredible to make sure you're focusing on the right things that are actually moving the ball forward. So number tracking, what to track, how, why. I'm going to stop sharing again. Why do we need to track our numbers? Well, if it's a numbers game, don't you think we need to know the numbers to play the game? I mean, it's as simple as that. And a lot of people make it overcomplicated. Well, I don't know what to track, or I don't, you know, I forgot, I don't want to. Usually people don't track their numbers because they don't like the answer. Like, it's not fun to write 0 every day or 1 every day. I talked to 1 person today. Okay, don't be frustrated you're not achieving your goals, because you probably just haven't put enough of the game in place to even hit those numbers. So what numbers do you track? I'm going to show you an example of a spreadsheet. Again, you don't have to overcomplicate this, But how cool would it be to know that every 100 people you talk to, you take a listing? How cool would it be to know every 150 people you talk to, you get a buyer under contract? Do you think that could take some of the doubt and, fear and limiting beliefs and some of that, like, is this working? I don't know if it's working. Maybe this isn't for me. Do you think if you knew your numbers, you could take a lot of that stress and emotion out of it? Because guess what? If you know your number's 100 and you're like, I'm so frustrated, I don't know if this is working, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've only talked to 50 people. I'm only halfway. I got to talk to 50 more before I'm going to get that listing. Or I'm about to quit and give up, this isn't it. And you're like, whoa, I was at 93. I only have 7 more people to talk to before I find my listing, and I almost quit. Do you see how that could save you down the road? Because trust me, you're all going to have a moment where you're like, I don't know if this is working, and maybe this isn't for me, or I'm having a rough day, and I don't want to do this anymore. And you might have been like 2 contacts away from your next deal, and you quit. And it happens all the time. And I'll share, I had someone who was on my team who told me that they couldn't do this anymore, and it was time that they had to go get a real job. And I knew they were putting in the work, and I knew the numbers were there, and they were like this close. And I was like, you have to believe, you have to have faith. I'm telling you, you're right there. It's going to happen. Just stick with it a little bit longer. And I'm not kidding. That month, I want to say they opened 7 escrows, 0 to 7. And they were about to quit right before it started to happen, because all of a sudden leads started calling back. All of a sudden leads were like, I'm ready, because they were putting in the work, they put in the time. But do you see how easy it would be to give up? So what numbers do you track? Let's share that really fast. I just have to find it. Hold on one moment. Any questions on the numbers or why it's important? Okay, I'm going to pull up the spreadsheet for you all. Just give me a moment. All right, here's an example. It doesn't have to be a fancy spreadsheet, but at the end of the day, you want to track, I'm going to just start here, connects, contacts. How many people are you talking to? Depending on your definition of a contact, we could go deep into this. Some people say it's a 2-way conversation, even if that's text or email. Some people say it's only a voice-to-voice conversation. Some say a connect is, if you leave a message or you text someone they count that. You have to decide what that definition is for you. And then you want to know, did you set any appointments? Was it a buyer? Was it a seller? Did you hold any appointments? Was it a buyer? Was it a seller? Did you take a listing? Buyer accepted. This is like an accepted offer. So did you get an accepted offer? Are you opening escrow? Is it for a buyer? Is it for a seller? Did you do an open house or a virtual open house or something else you want to track? How many closings did you have? And did anything fall through? Because they say about 10% is going to fall through. So again, knowing the numbers takes the emotion out of it. How many of you know someone or had this happen to you where, especially over the past couple months, a buyer lost their financing because they lost their job? I heard one where they lost their job the day before closing. Do you think that's going to mess with your head and mess with your mindset and be completely devastating if you thought you were getting paid, you thought you had a deal, you put in all the work, it's about to close, and then it fell through? This is a tough business. This isn't fun. You have to have a mental toughness about you to survive a game of sales, because what other industry is like, do all the work and you might get paid in 90 days? Oh, and it might fall through too, so you may not get paid at all. messed up.
And it's not a quick sale. Like it takes time
It takes
to get to
time.
the closing.
So you're doing all the work to find a piece of business, and then it could be another 45, 60 days before it might close.
It might.
I don't talk about pendings or closings until they're actually done.
Exactly.
So don't overcomplicate the number tracking, but just know that, like, if you're tracking your numbers, you can figure out the game you're playing. And deals do fall apart. So to me, the mindset is, well, at least I got it out of the way. It sucks. It's not fun. I'm not saying you ever just become like, oh, well, we'll just keep going. It's not fun. But at least I could say, you know what, it's just part of the business and I got it out of the way. And hopefully the rest of them will be good to go because I already went through that up front. Which leads me to my next piece. Any questions on number tracking or why it's important? Yes. Again, if you all, I know you probably registered, put your email into it, but if you put your email in the chat box, I will send a personal follow-up email with all the items I'm sharing. And that way you can kind of play around with it. And there's different spreadsheets and things you can use to track your numbers. Another one I can show you, I have to figure out where it is. Let's see. One moment. So here's another one. We all just took a class, or some of us, I should say, took a class called Bold. And they had, they made like their own little, you know, affirmation, gratitude. Did I do my practice in role play? What did I do to develop a habit? And then they have like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, 20 little checkbox for like, did you have 20 conversations? Did you have 20 text or, you know, social media messages? Any nurtures to cultivate, appointments held? So I can share this with you too, but you can make it whatever you want it to look like. It doesn't have to be a fancy thing. So let me stop sharing again. Here you all are. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. So any questions on number tracking? And I'll share all these resources after, just to make sure you're good to go. Then let's get back to, I know I'm going all over the place with sharing screens, but I don't know, sometimes I feel like if you just share, if you're on Zoom all day and you're just staring at somebody's slide instead of them like talking, to me, I like can't look at that all day long. So I hope you're not getting, you know, too overwhelmed with me sharing 15 different things, but I thought it was important that you see a lot of different tools we're talking about, so it makes more sense. And now I will go back to our slides. All right, number tracking, what to track, how to track it. Don't overcomplicate it. I used to have a piece of paper and everyone I talked to, I made a little like line, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like it wasn't fancy. So don't think you need, like sometimes we like to think we need something more than what we have, when in reality, it's just writing it on your calendar. It's writing it on a piece of paper and just adding it up and figuring out what those numbers look like. All right. My favorite topic is mindset. So what do we mean moving from E to P? We like to call this entrepreneurial to purposeful. So what do I mean by that? Everybody, and there's a whole class on this, there's 6 personal perspectives. Like I just taught this actually for the past like 6 weeks. Moving from E to P really means doing things naturally the way you've just kind of always done it, to actually becoming purposeful about it. You putting together that 1, 3, 5 and tracking your numbers will cause you to get purposeful about your business. Instead of just, I'm going to go to the office today and figure out what I need to do, and I'm going to text some people and like see what happens. Or yeah, I'm calling my sphere, you know, I'm just reaching out to a couple people a day and, you know, haven't really found any business yet. Or I talk to everybody at the grocery store checkout line, and someday I'll find some business. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but do you see how you already came up with 15 strategies to move you forward? 15 action items. That's purposeful. Not taking action. If something is stopping you, you're like, I know I'm supposed to reach out to my sphere and I'm just not doing it. And I know I'm supposed to be doing all these things on my calendar, but I'm just not doing any of it. A lot of that's mindset. A lot of that is something is holding you back. It could be fear. It could be fear of failure, fear of rejection, not wanting to look bad, not wanting to bother people, not being confident in what to say, not being confident in what if they want an appointment? I don't even know what to do if I get an appointment. When you're new in the business, it can be very uncomfortable if you don't know what to do or I remember the first time I set an appointment, I was like, oh my gosh, now what? Like I spent like 5 hours trying to figure out what I was even supposed to do on the appointment. So if you're not taking action, you got to ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What is it that I am afraid of? I just dug into this with somebody in my coaching program who wasn't like, they just didn't know. They just weren't really taking action. And we figured out it's because they felt like they were bothering people and they didn't want to annoy them. They didn't want to bother them. They felt awkward. So we shifted their mindset to realize they're actually bringing value and they need to help their people. And once we removed that little belief, or we removed that fear, that doubt, they were like, oh my gosh, I'm not afraid anymore. I want to call these people. I'm excited. I'm inspired. I want to help my people. I don't care if they don't answer me right away. They'll probably answer me tomorrow. It changed everything like that. So if you're not taking action, you really got to dig for a second and figure out what is it that you're avoiding. And if you don't know what to say, then what is something you can do to figure that out? Could you attend a role play? I lead role play for my office. Asal, I know you've joined us many times. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9:30 to 10. Does your office offer something like that where you could practice and start to hear what it sounds like, ask questions? So you have to figure out what is it that's actually holding you back. This is where having a coach, having a mentor, someone who could help you ask questions can help you figure it out. And then have blind faith. You have to know that if you put the effort out there, results will come. But you can't wait for results if you're not willing to take action. Like, we like to measure in results, which if there's 0, it makes us feel not very good. We can't control results. We can only control what action we take every day. So it's a different mindset to say, hey, everything you do today is going to show up 90 days from now. But don't worry, I know you're not getting paid for 90 days and you don't think it's working and you haven't found any business, but keep going, keep taking action, keep following your plan, and someday a check will come. Like, who signs up for that? What other industry is like, yeah, okay, that's normal, cool. All right, may not get paid for 3 to 6 months, but I just have to keep showing up and doing the work and hope it pays off. Okay, sign me up. Do you hear how, you've got to get your mindset wrapped around this, because it does work. It's been proven. Many people have done it, and you just got to find the people that do it the way you want to do it and follow what they're doing. But it does take time. So any mindset questions? It's a lot, I know. All right, so action items. If you don't take action, what's the point? So make sure you create your 135, your GPS, and make sure you walk away today knowing your goal. Otherwise, what was the point of spending this time together? We can get caught up on Zooms and training, and I'm just going to keep learning, and someday when I feel confident, and someday when I feel like I have all the answers, then I'll be ready to call or take action. That's not how this business works. This is kind of like, I'm going to jump into the deep end and I'm going to figure out how to swim as I go, which is not normal for most people. Most people are not full on risk taker. I'll just jump out of the plane and hope my parachute opens up and I'll find out on my way down. That's not normal logical thinking, but that is what it takes as a real estate agent, someone in sales, someone in commission, is you gotta just go out there head first and learn. And yes, you gotta learn. Yes, you have to improve your skills. Yes, you have to invest the time in training. But if you just take training and don't do anything with it, you're not gonna get anywhere. So I would love for everybody to make sure they have their GPS, their 135, same thing, which is basically your goal for the year, 3 different sources of business that you want to do and focus on to get you there, and your 5 strategies for each one of action items, which becomes your calendar. And be clear on your GCI goal. Here's the thing. If you said, Melissa, what do you want to accomplish between now and December 31st? How many deals do you want to do? If I can't say it like second nature, it just flies out like 48, whatever it may be. That's a problem. And I guarantee you, I could go ask 100 agents, 1,000 agents, 5 agents. I could go to a room of realtors and say, how many deals do you have to do before December 31st? How many deals do you have to do? How many deals, or what's your GCI goal before the end of the year? I guarantee most of them are going to be like, well, I mean, I said, well, I probably have to read, like, they have no idea. And there's nothing, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying, how in the world are you supposed to go anywhere if you don't even know where you're going? And then you wonder why it's not working and why you have to go get a real job. It's because you didn't really treat this like a real job in the first place, because no one's telling you what to do. It's different. So I feel like I just dumped a lot on you. What are you taking away? I'd love for you to share ahas. We got through that real fast because it was a quieter group today. So I would love for everybody to either share their goal for the year, make sure you have it. Is it clear? What questions do you have? We have some time. I'm happy to take anybody through coaching questions, whatever it is you need to make sure you're clear and you got something out of this today.
Thank you, Melissa. As this is my first Zoom, so it was a lot of information to take in.
Oh yeah, that was it. This is a great one. So proud of you for jumping in. Thank you.
No, thank you. It definitely puts things into perspective, and just breaking down the numbers, me personally not being a number person, you going over the GCI, the GPS, and really just strategizing everything, it kind of gives me the next step. Like I now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I can start putting this down into a perspective. I am in the stage though where if a lead did ask me something, I don't know. So I know I have a lot more to learn, but thank you for all of this information.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And quick question, are you in our office? Are you in a different office? It does not matter what the answer is, but just so I can help give you some resources for where you would go next.
Your office is the one on Fort Apache in Sahara? Mm-hmm. Yes, so I signed up there. Yes.
Congratulations. So I have your email now. I will make sure you have the link for role play, because that's really the next step, is immersing yourself. And I know it's been a little weird because we're, the office is open, but a lot of people maybe not be coming in yet, or, we're doing Zoom. It's different times right now. This is usually a class in a classroom with 10, 15, 20, 25 people, and we're working out numbers and interacting. So it's different times right now. So just the fact that you showed up, you're willing to go all in, that's what matters. And now you have clarity so you can do something about it. Yes. That's what people forget. It's not that you get all the answers and now all of a sudden it's just like, oh, now I know everything. It's now you know the next step.
Yeah.
Which is empowering instead of like overwhelm. So
for sure. Like I said, the numbers just make things a little clearer. So for me, my goal is probably a little different, being that I am just starting out. But the goal for me would be, come the start of the year, to leave my full-time job.
Yes,
and be able just to focus on real estate. So
that's awesome.
grind times.
Yes, it's amazing. And I had a full-time job for a year and a half before I went all in. And so I've been there and I did both. And yes, so there's other things I can reach out to you after and talk more about to kind of help you through that. But like I said, I'm just excited you're here. And this is step one, is clarity on what to do next. So thank you.
Again, thank you.
You're welcome. And then is it Kim? Is it Kimber? Kimberly? I saw you come off mute for a second.
Okay, there we go. Yes, I wanted to piggyback off of that, Melissa. Thank you so much for your time. It's Kimberly, by the way.
Kimberly.
Yes, and so I am also new to the business. I was a teacher, and so I'm looking to at least my goal was this school year, but with everything going on, at least by the end of next school year would be to full-time transition to real estate. So you gave me a great starting point, really some things to look at and really evaluate how I could meet those goals and the tools to get there.
That's awesome. And it's the thing, I'm here I'll put my email in the chat box too. Like, I'm here as a resource because I've been there. I know what it's like. And if you don't, it's really about just having a plan, right? And then what is the plan? How am I supposed to figure out a plan if I have no idea? Like, real estate is such a fascinating industry because it's like, I passed, I'm here. I remember being like, I'm here, now what? And they're like, I don't know, go do it. And I'm like, do what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I didn't even know it's commission only. I knew nothing about this business. I just, I needed a real job. So somehow real estate seemed like the real career I needed. So point is, like, we just get thrown, like, I'm not kidding. Do you feel like you've been thrown into the deep end and you're like, where am I even swimming to? Like, I don't even know where the edge is. Like, it's overwhelming. So yeah, if you don't have direction and support and a plan, no wonder 85% of agents don't make it. It's because they just got thrown in and it was like, all right, go figure it out. And that's an amazing thing with Keller Williams in our office at KW Las Vegas. We have we have like the opposite problem. There's more training and classes that you're like, when am I supposed to get any work done? I'm in class all day long. Like, we have the opposite problem that we joke about, which is not a bad thing. It's just, it's a lot. So I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to help. I applaud you both for jumping in, being here. That's the first step. So, and it is good to see you again. I remember we've talked before, so it's good to see you. And I'm going to put my email in the chat box real quick. It's for anyone watching. It's melissa@themachatgroup.com. That's the MACHAT group.com. You're welcome to reach out, ask questions. I love talking about this stuff. I can talk about it all day long.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Melissa, thank you for your time. And let's say one of the priority would be, as you mentioned, working with expired. What strategy would you recommend except just calling?
Yeah.
What else?
So mine for expireds would be role play 5 days a week, because expireds is a very high, I like to call it a very high skill source of business. It's low hanging fruit because they raise their hand, they want to sell, they're willing to list, but you have a very small window to get your foot in the door, and you have competition. You have other agents who are all calling. So your skill level has to be there. So it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So my 5 things would be role play expireds every day, 5 days a week. It would be to call all new expireds every day. It would be to call old expireds. Old expireds were my favorite. That's like the gate. I joke, it's the gateway. That sounds bad, but it's the gateway into expireds is old expireds, because they expired a couple years ago, maybe a couple months ago. Maybe there aren't as many people calling them. Maybe they have no idea their home value came up. So I would say I will call old expireds for 30 minutes a day. I will call new expireds for an hour a day, something like that. And then another thing you could do is some people would mail or drop off or knock on their door. Like if there was an expired you really wanted, it was a neighborhood, a price point, you're like, I want this listing so badly, we would knock on their door and we would drop off something, package or a letter, you know, leave a note. So I know agents do that. So those could be your 5 things: role play every day, call them every day, call old expireds every day for X amount of time. And then if there's one I really want, drop something off or go knock on their door. And then your 5th thing could be with expireds. It could be a time to follow up with expireds because you don't reach a lot of them, or they do hang up on you, or I'm not interested. Maybe you want to try again. So those would probably be my, what I actually did was role play every day and call them every day. And if there was one that I got really excited about, I would try to go find them. It didn't really ever, I don't think that ever worked for me. I wasn't consistent with it though. But does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. The old expireds are great. And you do usually have to pay some type of, or if you're on a team, maybe your team provides it, but sometimes title reps might be able to offer it. But there's services out there that will give you expired information. And again, it's a numbers game. A lot of it could be wrong numbers, but you just got to keep, consistency is the key here. With any lead generation, with anything you wrote down, it's still taking a little bit of action. What can I do every day? So even if you have another job, what can you do? And I joke that if you have another job, depending what the job is, you could technically be getting paid to lead generate at your other job. So instead of looking at your other job as a burden, and I can't wait to get out, that's what I did. I was like, I worked in a casino. I was a dealer, and I was like, please get me out of here as fast as possible. And I want nothing to do with this. And I don't want to talk to any of you people. And I just kind of stayed super like, I'm just here to do my job and get me out of here. That was probably not the smartest thing to do with my time, since I was there anyway. If I had used that as a lead generation opportunity, so instead of talking to people on the phone all day long, if I just went in the break room and started bothering, started talking to everybody about real estate, I absolutely got business from the people I worked with, but they were the like very few people I talked to. So what would it look like if I just looked at my other job as I'm getting paid to lead gen right now? It's pretty cool. Not a bad gig. So for anyone with another job, yeah, go ahead.
I've been with Dillard's for like 5-6 years before, and I've been their counter manager for cosmetic. And when I stopped working because of my kids, I had so many ex-clients. So I came back, but part-time, and I just look at it as reconnecting with all my clients. And I found few people that they are interested, to change their house, and I'm so, oh, that's good.
It's absolutely. So I think the key is that business is all around you, and it may even be right in front of you. It may be next door to you. It might be in your neighborhood. Business is literally everywhere. And when you open up your mind and you open up your eyes to see that there's opportunity in people you used to work with, people in your cell phone, people, if you have kids and their parents, like there's opportunity everywhere. And so sometimes we limit ourselves so much, or we call it like we're being a secret agent. So I know people who pick up business anywhere and everywhere they go. Like the gas station, they talk to people. The grocery store, they talk to the people in the checkout line. Starbucks, they talk to people. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone. That's exhausting. I'm busy, like, so you wonder why they're finding business and I'm not. It's because they're attracting it. That's who they're being. They wear their name tag. They're a real estate agent. They're proud of it. How many of us are like hiding it or don't want to talk about it, or I'm new, I don't, I'm part-time, I'm not confident yet, I don't really know what to say. So I think that we really do, we overcomplicate this, It's just a matter of talking to people. And I love seeing the light switch when an agent realizes how much business is right in front of their face and they've been ignoring it or didn't see it. And all of a sudden they like tap into it. And I talked to one of my agents this morning. She's like, Melissa, you were right. I just set 2 appointments. I'm like, I was right about what, I don't remember what I said. What was I right about? You know, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, just being consistent, having my mindset open for business. That's it. It was just a little switch. It wasn't, oh, but my skills and right. So it's interesting. And I think the people that embrace it and they're willing to put in the effort, and like right now, the next step is if you all can join role play, even if it's 1 day a week, if it doesn't work with your schedule, find someone you can start practicing with or listening. I'm sure there's role plays on YouTube and other places. You can start just listening. If someone says, how's the market? What do I say? If someone says, what do you do for a living? What do I say? Like basic, simple things, just so you can have confidence in those conversations. And I'll put in here, it's Monday. So for me, it's Monday. Every office is different. Mine is, and I happen to lead it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 to 10. Sometimes we go over because we keep talking, but it's about 9:30 to 10. And it's not a, okay, you're on, go, your turn, you read it. Asala's been on it, so she can vouch for me. I'm not making this up. I literally say, what do you want to work on today? What are you hearing out there? What are you challenged with? What do you want to practice? And then we just have a conversation around it. So it's not very like, sometimes you think like scripts, role play, I don't know what to say, sounds weird. So we're having real estate conversations. But that's a great place to start.
Melissa, have you ever tried Land Voice services?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Land Voice, RedX, different agents have different preferences. There's a lot of deals going on right now, I'm sure, to get people to sign up. So you might ask in our 605 Facebook group, say, does anybody know if there's like discounts for, you know, expired services or Land Voice? They might have some like sign up codes and stuff.
But what was your experience using Land Voice?
I used RedX.
RedX.
Mm-hmm. And I used their like.
Why did you like it better than Land Voice?
I honestly don't remember. That's just what I got used to, and then I never switched. So this was probably, realistically, I was calling expireds, let's say 2013 to 2017. And so I just kind of got stuck on it and didn't really feel like switching. But I believe Land Voice is a lot better services and more options now than it used to be fair. Awesome. Well, anything else? I feel like right now our time is so precious that to get a little bit of it back is great. But if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer that as well. But if not, I just appreciate you all showing up, and I will follow up with those items. And if you have any other questions, please reach out. But just know you have support here, and it is overwhelming being new. We want to help make that transition as easy as possible. But that's the key. What can I do today to move forward? What action can I take today? Who can I talk to? Am I going to a store? I know right now, you know, masks and things, people may not want to really like interact. I think people are craving connection. So to me, I never had a fancy database. I had my cell phone. I'll end on this because I think it's funny. Well, people enjoy this. I called it psychic prospecting. I used to go through my cell phone and be like, who do I feel like talking to? And then I would just call whoever I felt like. So talk about not overcomplicating it. Talk about not really having a system. Talk about winging it. And it still worked. So don't get caught up and you have to be perfect and you have to have everything in order. I literally would go through my cell phone and just start scrolling and be like, oh, I need to talk to this person. Oh, I haven't talked to them in a while. Oh, I want to check in on them. Trust me, there's plenty of people I skipped over too. Could I have gotten there faster if I called everyone? Probably, but doing something is still better than nothing. So with that, I'll say I appreciate you all. If you have questions, let me know. and have an amazing day. Foundations will be back on Friday. It's a different instructor every time. Friday is 1 to 3 again. I believe it's on marketing. And all these foundation classes really, it's not just for new agents. You could take them over and over and over again. You're gonna learn something new every single time, but that's the goal. We want you to have something tangible that you can actually go take action. So thank you all. Have an amazing day, and I'll email you all after.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.